The night I found the locker, something in me broke, like a string wound tight for too long, suddenly snapping. You'd think it'd be strange to find a locker in your own workplace with your name on it that you'd never set up, wouldn't you? But by that point, I'd seen enough odd things around here that strange felt more familiar than normal. Still, that night when I opened that locker and saw the uniform inside, brand new, creased like it had never been worn, with someone else's name on the tag, my pulse went cold. But I'm getting ahead of myself. I'll start from the beginning. I was still relatively new at the store when the absences started to catch my eye. You see, I'm not the kind of guy to just sit back and coast through life. Aaron Tully isn't here for mediocrity. I was eager, maybe a bit too eager, I'll admit. Always early, offering to work late, volunteering for tasks no one wanted. I wasn't just another retail worker, I had ambition. I wanted to get noticed, rise up the ranks. I thought if I worked hard enough, someone up there would see I was management material. It was only a few weeks in when I realized a handful of people I'd met during orientation, people I'd just started to recognize by face, if not by name, weren't showing up anymore. At first, I figured they'd quit. Retail work has a revolving door, right? High turnover, as they say. And that's exactly what my manager Sylvia said the first time I asked. They just don't last, Aaron, she told me with a shrug, barely looking up from her clipboard. Some people just don't have the stamina. But it kept happening. One day, I'd be stocking shelves next to a kid named Lucas, a lanky guy with a half smile and a habit of humming old rock tunes while he worked. The next day, he'd be gone, and when I asked around, nobody knew where he went. Turnover is high, Aaron, was all Sylvia would say. It was always the same line, high turnover, like that was supposed to explain everything. I tried brushing it off. I mean, I wanted to fit in, not make waves, but curiosity got the better of me. Late one night, after my shift ended, I decided to take a peek at the employee schedule in the break room. I figured I could at least get some last names, maybe find them on social media. You know, just to confirm they'd moved on to greener pastures. But when I scanned the schedule, I saw nothing. No Lucas, no Mark, no Janet. All of them people I distinctly remembered meeting in my first week. It was like they'd never existed. I started digging deeper. At first, it was little things like asking around subtly during smoke breaks or while folding shirts at the display table. But every time I brought up a name, the response was eerily similar. A shrug, a half smile, a dismissive wave. "Turnover is high, Aaron," they'd say, voices flat, almost rehearsed. The same phrase every single time. One night, I decided to stay late. The store had closed and the usual post-closing tasks were underway, mopping the floors, restocking the shelves, counting registers. I lingered in the back, loitering near the stockroom, waiting for the right moment. It was then I overheard Sylvia and another manager, Greg, talking in hushed voices. "Do we have another one ready?" Greg asked, his voice barely a murmur. Sylvia sighed. "Yes, but we'll need to do it before the weekend. We don't want another incident." "What about Aaron?" Greg asked. My blood ran cold. I leaned closer, straining to catch every word. "Not yet," Sylvia replied. "He's still useful." My breath hitched, and I stumbled backward, a box of canned goods toppling over beside me with a loud crash. I scrambled to pick them up, heart racing, but when I looked up, Sylvia was there, watching me with that practiced, unreadable expression. "Working late again, Aaron?" she asked, smiling with an edge that made my skin crawl. I forced a grin. "Yeah, just, trying to help out." Her eyes lingered on me for a moment longer before she nodded. "That's what we like about you, Aaron. Always willing to go the extra mile." She patted my shoulder, her hand lingering just a bit too long. "Be careful, though. Working too hard isn't always healthy." The way she said it sent a chill through me. I nodded, keeping my expression as neutral as possible, but inside, a storm of questions was brewing. After that night, things only got weirder. I started finding things in the aisles, items tucked away in odd places, as if someone had abandoned them mid-task. There was a mop left in the middle of the cosmetics aisle, its bucket half filled with water that had gone murky and stale. A clipboard lay abandoned in the cleaning supplies aisle, the paper faded, the ink smeared as if it had been left there for days. And then there were the back rooms. They felt different somehow, like the walls were closing in on me the further I ventured. The dim lighting, the narrow, cluttered aisles. It was as though the space itself was twisting around me, growing colder, quieter. I could swear I heard whispers sometimes, faint and distant, echoing from deep within the storage rooms. I'd catch glimpses too. A shadow disappearing around a corner, a flash of movement out of the corner of my eye. Once, I saw a figure standing at the end of an aisle, partially obscured by shelves. I could only make out their silhouette, but something about them was wrong. They were too tall, too thin, standing perfectly still as if waiting for something. I blinked and they were gone. That's when I found the locker. It was late, and I was making my way back to the break room after an exhausting shift. I hadn't even noticed it at first, just another metal locker among dozens, tucked into the far corner, almost hidden in the shadows. But as I passed by, something caught my eye. My name. Aaron Tully, printed in black marker, the letters neat and deliberate. I hesitated, reaching out slowly to touch it. I hadn't been assigned a locker. I'd been using an empty cubby near the front like everyone else, yet here it was, my name scrawled across it, in a way that felt both familiar and completely alien. Swallowing hard, I tugged the locker open. Inside, there was a neatly folded uniform, just like the one I wore every day, only this one was brand new, pressed, almost gleaming in the dim light. But the name tag, it didn't say Aaron, it said Lucas. My hands started to shake as I stared at it, trying to make sense of what I was seeing. Lucas, the kid who'd vanished without a trace, the one who, according to the store, had never even existed. I took a step back, my mind racing. I didn't know what this meant, didn't want to know, but I couldn't look away. It was like the uniform was mocking me, challenging me to put the pieces together. Suddenly, I heard footsteps echoing down the hallway. Panicking, I slammed the locker shut and darted around the corner, pressing myself against the wall, barely daring to breathe. The footsteps grew louder, closer, until I could see the shadow of someone standing just around the bend. Sylvia. She paused in front of the locker, her hand lingering on the handle, as if checking to make sure it was still locked. Then slowly, she turned her head, her gaze sweeping the hallway. I shrank back further, heart pounding so loud I was sure she'd hear it. After what felt like an eternity, she walked away, her footsteps fading into the distance. Only when I was certain she was gone did I let out a shaky breath, my mind spinning with questions, with fears I couldn't even begin to understand. The next day, I called in sick, and the day after that. I spent those days in my apartment trying to convince myself it was just a misunderstanding, that I was overreacting. But the image of that locker, of Lucas's name on the uniform, haunted me. I couldn't shake it, couldn't ignore the nagging feeling that something was very, very wrong. On the third day, there was a knock at my door. I froze, heart racing as I glanced through the peephole. Sylvia stood there, smiling that too-wide smile, clipboard in hand. "Aaron," she called softly, her voice muffled through the door. "We missed you at work. Thought I'd come check on you." I backed away from the door, my mind racing. She knocked again, harder this time. "Open up, Aaron," she said, her voice sharper, colder. "You don't want to make this difficult." I didn't respond, just stood there, heart pounding, feeling the walls close in around me. That was a week ago. I haven't gone back to the store since. I haven't even left my apartment. But every night, I hear footsteps outside my door.